Hi, I'm speaking to you from the headquarters of Midreshet Avigayil, a high-level summer Talmud program for girls. I'm Tzipora Machla Clapper, and I'm 17 years old.
I'm Ravital Singer, I'm 18 years old.
I'm Machavalaya Weinstein, I'm 14 years old.
In this video, we hope to give you an understanding of the methodology we use when we learn Gemara here. And a few of the most important things to know are that when we learn the Gemara, we learn it as a whole, not as discrete parts that progress. So whenever we learn a sugya, we pick out the structure. We look for structural keywords. In our sugya, through the use of structural keywords, which we will explain as we move along, we have determined that we have a Mishnah, and then we have a Machlokas Amoraim about the Mishnah, and then we have a discussion about that, and then we have a series of tashmas brought by the Stam in relation to the dialogue. We also learn the Gemara with formatting to show us what sources are, and with Rashi incorporated into the text to give us a better idea of what Rashi does when he comments on the text. In order to represent this, I will be playing the part of Rashi, Ravital will be playing the part of the Stam, and Batshevalea will be playing the part of all sources brought by the Stam. We begin.
Havlad Mamzer.
Tnan Hatam.
Ein Tarmin min hatamei al tahar.
Mishum Hefsei Kohen.
V'im Tara mishogig truma so truma.
Gedaravi Eli the Kaman.
V'mezid lo asav lo klum.
The words of Vlad Mamzer come from our Mishnah and function as a topical placeholder. We then bring another Mishnah from Masechet Trumot. Our assumption is this was put here because the Talmud Bavli doesn't have a Masechet Trumot, and this sugya quotes our Mishnah from Masechet Yevamot, and therefore it makes sense to put it here. The Mishnah we bring is a case in which someone has a field with both Tameh and Tahor produce, and he takes part of the Tameh produce as Truma for the Tahor. The Mishnah says that this is not allowed, and Rashi adds that that the reason for that is Mishum Hefsed Kohen, that we don't want the Kohen to not have good Truma. That also indicates that the ruling here is ruling Derabanan, because if it had been Deoraita, we would have just said that the reasoning for it is that the Truma can't be considered good Truma, it can't be considered Truma at all, and can't therefore be seen as Truma. The Mishnah continues to say that if someone gave Tameh Truma B'Shogeg, their Truma counts as Truma, but if they did it with Mezid, then Lo Asav Lo Klum, which is a phrase that the Gemara will soon explain. Mai Lo Asav Lo Klum, Amar Rav Chisda,
Lo asav lo klum kalikar.
De'afilu Ahigriva,
The Truma.
Hadar L'Tivlei, Rav Natan Rabbi Yoshai Amar,
Lo asav lo klum utakenas.
Hatahor Shezeh Haya Osa Oso.
Shirayim.
Aval Truma Have.
The Kedosha V'Yachzor V'Yitro Min Hatahor.
Here we have an Amoraic disagreement about the meaning of the phrase from our Mishnah, Lo asav lo klum. Rav Chisda says this means that it doesn't count at all. Even the part that he took off as Truma is considered Tevel. Rav Nasan Rabbi Yoshaya says it counts as Truma, but he still has to give Truma again. The way we differentiate between what the Amoraim say and what the Gemara says about the comments of the Amoraim is that the Amoraim speak in Hebrew and the Gemara is written in Aramaic.
Rav Chisda Lo Amar Rav Natan Rabbi Yoshaya, De'i Amar Tahave Truma Zimnin Lepesha Velo
Hadar
Mafrish.
Min Hatahor. Lakaman Parich, Kevan Demi Doraisa Truma Hi, Minikatani Bishogi Trumasa Truma, Hecham Mafkinan La Mikadushasa Mishum Dilmo Pasha. Here we have a form statement, blank lo amar kiblank. In this case, it's Rav Chisda lo amar Rav Nasan Rabbi Yoshaya. In this case, it's interesting because there is no counterpart statement for Rav Nasan Rabbi Yoshaya. We never ask why he doesn't hold like Rav Chisda, just why Rav Chisda doesn't hold like him. That seems to indicate to us that Rav Nasan Rabbi Yoshaya's statement is the intuitive one. Of course, we're going to be mekanis him. We're going to give him a knas because we don't like what he did. Rav Chisda, on the other hand, is less concerned with that and seems to be going out of his way to not have a knas here by making the guy only have to pay one set of truma. So here we have Rav Chisda's reasoning. We say that if you don't say it's truma, if you say it's truma, then sometimes he's going to do the wrong thing, and he's not going to go back and take more truma that's tahor. And we want him to do that. because the whole idea, as Rashi put it, is mishum hafsei kohen, because we want the kohen to have better truma, then not having the kohen have better truma. Then if we require him to give truma again in Rav Chisda's universe, he probably won't get better truma. He'll get the same tummy truma, and he won't ever get the Torah truma. So this way, the Kohen gets Torah truma, and if he doesn't get the tummy truma, it's not such a big loss, since he would have had to burn it anyway, and it's not like he could have eaten it. V'lekam parich, and Rashi here prepares us for the Gemara later on by telling us what the Gemara will ask. It's an obvious question, and he wants us not to get stuck on it. So we say, hey, this is truma deoraisa. We know that it's truma deoraisa because if it does it b'shogeg, it counts. And if it's truma deoraisa, then how can we say, oh, it's not truma, just go take more truma? Because that would seem to not have, it would seem to be taking away the status of truma from something that is truma deoraisa. And how can we do that just because we think that he might do something wrong?
Ma'ishna mehaditnan.
HaTorah and Kishos v'nemtzeis mara.
Shogeg hi, hu, midikatane nimseis, miklal demei kara lo havayada.
Avatiach v'nemtzeis ruach truma v'yachzor v'yisrom.
We now bring another Mishnah, which we would like to contrast with our Mishnah. The Mishnah we bring talks about someone who gives gourds or watermelons as truma, and they turn out to be rotten. Rashi adds that the word nimtzeit turns out to be means that it was b'shogeg. He didn't know that they were bad. We say that in this case, the truma is considered truma, but he still has to give more truma. Shogeg amezid karmet, shogeg lo aved isura, mezid kaved isura, vrami shogeg a-shogeg, hachaktane,
V'shogeg truma so truma.
hatam ktane,
Truma v'yachzor v'yisrom.
hatam shogeg karov lemezid, di baile lemitame.
So here in the Mishnah, we go through the obvious questions of contrastion first. So first we start off by contrasting the case in this Mishnah to the case in our Mishnah, the conclusion. So in our Mishnah it said lo asav lo klum for mezid, and in this Mishnah it says truma v'yachzor v'yitro. So lo asav lo klum, according to Rav Chisda, does not would seem to mean that that really didn't count at all, and truma v'yachzor v'yitro means it counted and you have to take more. So we try to contrast those, and we say no, really the case in our Mishnah is mezid, and the case in the Mishnah we just brought is shogeg, so you can't compare them. And the excuse for that is that shogeg, you did lo avad isura, which is a very strange phrase, because for shogeg, obviously you did do something asur. But I guess it means that you didn't do an isur quite as bad. It's also very odd because, according to Rav Chisda, the conclusion, according to Rav Chisda, like the end cases for the mezid and shogeg, the mezid gets punished less harshly, which is it's very odd. But granted, we take that as a distinction, meaning that they can't be compared, and so we move on to another question. And we say that we should just contrast the shogeg case in our Mishnah to the shogeg case in this Mishnah. The shogeg case in our Mishnah said truma so truma, so the truma that you took from the tamei counts, and this Mishnah says that truma v'yachzor v'yitro, which means you have to take more truma. And we say no, really this Mishnah, which is not comparable to mezid, isn't comparable to isn't comparable to shogeg either, because this is shogeg karov lemezid, which means that it's not comparable either to shogeg or to mezid. And the reason given for that is that he was supposed to taste it, which is very odd because we came up with 3 possibilities of explaining it, and none of them work. Possibility 1 is that he's going to take truma and then eat some of the truma, and if it's rotten, then he won't give it to the kohen. But that doesn't work on a lot of counts. First of all, he's eating truma. Second of all, there's not much you can do once you've given the truma. You can't do anything about it. So he had a second possibility, which was that maybe he eats some of it when it's still tevel, and then gives truma from the better crop once he's done that. But then he's eating tevel, which is asur, which is still bad. And the third possibility is that you take truma from like part of the field, and then you taste the stuff that is no longer tevel because you took truma from it. The problem with that though is that you actually you can't really know because that one watermelon could be different than the other watermelons, and B, if the watermelons turn out to be rotten, then there's nothing you can do about it anyway. You've just given rotten watermelon as truma. So we weren't really sure how to resolve this difficulty, and we haven't yet come up with a solution for it.
ורמי מזיד המזיד, החקטני,
B'mezid lo hasaklum.
התמתנן,
Hatari mishe'in akov anakov truma v'yachsar v'yitrom.
בתרי מנה ציית, בחד מנה לא ציית.
So in this part of the Gemara, we're trying to compare the Mezid case in our Mishnah with the Mezid case in the other Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we say lo hasaklum. In the other Mishnah, we have a case that somebody took truma from a potted plant without holes, which is chayiv in truma d'Rabbanan, for truma of a potted plant with holes, which is chayiv in truma d'Oraisa. And the halacha is it counts as truma, but he has to give more truma. So why is it different? In the case of the potted plant, the person will understand that it's two different things, and so he has to take truma from each of them for their own. But in the case of the Tameh and Tahor, he's gonna, if it's all one field, he thinks it's all the same thing, and he won't be willing to take more truma.
Okay, Rashi says, Kolomar, Hasam, Kevan Dimitre Mane, Garrett Le, Hutter, Taro Miidach, Tsayaslach. So here, where there's two different types, there's two different pots. When you tell him, go back, take from that one, so you took from the, Duraisa for the Durabanan. So when you tell him go back, when you tell him to go back and take for the Duraisa one again, they'll understand that you're talking about, and they'll do it. But like Allah makes her Dilma Pasha, you don't need to make a zero about it, because nobody's really gonna like think that you can get away with that. Aval mitame ala taor jervayu b'chad mana rabu batis nakuv. So like, by mitame ala tahor, when the tame and the tahor produce grew in the same pot, it's not like there's any difference between them, and the average guy's life isn't really that affected by whether something is tame or tahor. So yeah, he's not gonna listen to you. He's not gonna listen to you when you tell him to go take more, and he'll just give the tmei out of the kohen. So it's better to like it's better to like make the tame stuff tevel again, so the kohen at least will get tahor truma, because the end result is better for the kohen.
ולרב נתן ברבי יושעיה דאמר,
Lo asav lo klum l'sakein shirayim.
אבל תרומה הווה.
והkohen מדליקה miyad.
מה ישנה מהדתנן?
Min hanakov al she'in akov truma so truma. V'lo tuchal
The kohen
ad she'yotzi alaha truma ma'aser makom achar.
mechoskinah le b'tabel gamor v'kan k'mo kain lo haya litin lekohen shema yisrov tabel tameh v'asur l'hadliko k'demachach perak v'hadlikin
שני הכה.
tameh v'tahor.
דמו דאורייתא תרומה מעלייתא היא, כדרבי אלי דאמר רבי אלי.
Minai l'torah min hara'a al yafa she'truma so truma. D'chsev lo tisu alav chait b'harimchem as chalo b'menu.
Hayin lo tarim min hamuvchar tisau chet.
V'im kadosh m'siyas chait lama. Mikan l'torah min hara'a al yafa she'truma so truma. In Rav Nessa Rabbi Yoshaya's explanation, the Kohen is allowed to burn the truma that he receives right away, but as opposed to the case in the other Mishnah, where he took truma from a potted plant with holes, which is chayiv in truma d'oraisa, to fulfill the chiyuv of truma for a potted plant without holes, which is chayiv in truma d'Rabbanan, where the Kohen is not allowed to use the truma until more truma is taken. So why do these two seemingly similar cases have different outcomes? The answer is no, the cases are really different, because in the case of the Tameh and Tahor, he was really chayiv in truma d'oraisa, as proven by Rabbi Elai. And we have a pasuk that says that taking truma from something bad for something good is a chait, so it must be that it counts as truma d'oraisa in the Tameh and Tahor case, because if you haven't done anything, then how could you have committed a sin?
We also noted that in this case, Rashi really creates the contradiction by adding in that in our case, the Kohen can light it immediately by Rav Nosson Rabbi Yoshaya, which is not necessarily obvious, and also that when it says lo tochal, he turns it into lo teachal lekohen, which is also not obvious in the other Mishnah. Rashi here adds, Aval min hanakuv al she'ein nakuv, havalei mihachiyuv al pater. But in the case in the Mishnah that we brought, when you take from the Deoraisa for the Derabanan, that's really from chiyuv al pater, because one of these things is chayiv Deoraisa, one of them is pater Deoraisa. The kevan da pater kamafrish lo chayil al Hashem truma, and because you're taking it for something that's pater, it's not really truma. Hilkach tevelhu. Therefore, it's tevel, because you didn't take it for the Deoraisa stuff. If you take it for the Deoraisa stuff, it would be truma. If you took it for the Derabanan stuff from Deoraisa stuff, it still needs to have truma taken from it. Therefore, it's still tevel. But asar off the kohen, a kohen can't eat it. V'Rabbanan hu degazer lemisvel the kohen hovil v'kara ala Hashem truma. And the Rabbanan said, okay, just give it to the kohen because it is sort of truma, I guess, kinda. The Yisrael says shenasna tzarich lahafrish ala truma meiser, but the Yisrael who gave it still needs to take more truma meiser, because that is not good enough. Ein tzarich lachzor v'lahafrish mimash ein nakuv. You don't need to go back and take from the non-hold potted plant, because it was derabanan and you took truma from it. It's derabanan. Who cares? Because truma delay miderabanan he v'hafrish ala. But if it was the other way around, took derabanan truma for deoraisa tavel, damrinan la'el truma he v'mutter l'kohen dehavalena pater al chiyuv, because that's from pater al chiyuv. So this stuff was never really chayav and truma to begin with, so it's truma, because why not? It's just truma. Hilkach afal gav deha'afrish ala lo miftar b'hach truma v'lo chayal ala Hashem truma. But you still aren't pater from giving truma from the Deoraisa stuff, because you didn't give Deoraisa truma. So it's not really truma, and you need to take more truma. Afilu hachi lo amrina lo tochal chulei ki delahop deloich maslani l'hiachol kohen betevel de'inala din tevel v'truma. It's not really. It doesn't matter if he eats derabanan tevel, because it's not really tevel, and okay, so the kohen gets a little extra. No one really cares that much. We will now bring you into the Beit Midrash for live dialogue between Amoraim. This is Rabbah, and this is Rav Chisda. Amar le Rabbah le Rav Chisda.
L'didach da'amaretz lo asav lo klum kol ikar da'afila hi griva hadalativ le ma'itayama gzira doma pashav lo mafresh mi'ika midi t'deoraisa havi truma misham doma pashav kol araban l'chulin l'chi beis demasna kardar ma'torah. So you say that the reason that lo asav lo klum means it doesn't count at all, that even the part he took off has the status of tavel. What's your reason? Because maybe he'll make a mistake and he won't give more truma if the original truma counts. But if the original truma is truma d'oraisa, how can you say that it's chulin just because he might make a mistake? Can based in the okar davar min Torah?
Amar le.
V'at lo tisvara? Don't you think Beitin can be okar davar min Torah? That's none. Havlad mamzer mizeh mizeh. Bishlama misheni mamzer. El rishona mai ishtohi. V'Yisrael ma'al v'kasharinan leiba mamzeret. I have proof. In the earlier Mishnah in Masechet Yevamot, it said that a woman whose husband disappeared and she found out from one aide that he was dead and she remarried and then he shows up again. Any kids she has from her second husband or from her first husband after he comes back are mamzerim. I understand why they're mamzerim from the second husband, but from the first husband, why would they be mamzerim? He's her real husband, and her kid will be a full part of Yisrael. And then how could we let him marry mamzeret? That's asur.
Amar le.
Hachi Amar Shmuel asur mamzeres. V'chi asur Rabban Amar Rabbi Yochanan asur mamzeres. V'amai kari lemamzeret lo asur b'vas Yisrael. So, but no, Shmuel says he's not allowed to marry mamzeres. And Rabban says in the Rabbi Yochanan he's not allowed to marry mamzeres. The only respect of which he's a mamzer is that he can't marry regular bas Yisrael.
Rashi adds here that it's a knas ba'almahu. It's just a knas. It's not halacha d'oraisa in any way. L'hachmir v'lasos siag Torah. You're being machmir. You're making an fence for the Torah to keep it safe. Be'ein zo akira, and that's not akira. Aval lahakil divrei Torah akirahi. So here Rashi makes a distinction. He says that if you're protecting words of Torah and you're being machmir, then that's not akira. But the moment you start being makil and allowing things that Torah didn't allow, that is just akira, and there's no way of getting around that. Here Rashi also is consistent, and he says that things that are conceded to here are not akira. Shalach le Rav Chisda l'Rabba biyad Ravacha bar Rav Huna.
ואין בית דין מתנים לעקור דבר מן התורה, והתניא, ממתי אדם יורש את אשתו קטנה?
Rashi here adds that that's if she dies, and we don't say that she'll do miyun, which is something you can do to annul a marriage if your father is dead and your mother and brothers marry you off before you come of age.
משתעמוד בקומתם, בית שמאי אומרים,
So Rashi says this means that when she goes through puberty, where she has pubic hair and she gets old enough and things like that.
ובית הלל אומרים מי שתיכנס לחופה. רבי אליעזר אומר מי שתבעל ויורשה ומטמא לה ואוכלת בגינו תרומה.
We explain what the contradictions between this and our idea that you can't be okra from the Torah are later in the rest of the video. We do not know at this point. The Stam reconstructs it. It does not seem to have been part of the original message sent by Rabbah to Rav Chisda. Sorry, by Rav Chisda to Rabbah.
בישרמי אומרים מי שתעמוד בקומתה.
אף על גב דלא נכנסה לחופה.
Hakaimalan, afilu b'gedola ishto arusa, lo onein v'lo matamela, mesa in yorsha.
אימה מי שתעמוד בקומתה ונכנסה לחופה, והכי אמרו לי בית שמאי לבית הלל דקם ריתום.
מי שתכנס לחופה.
היא עמדה בקומתה מהני לחופה, והיא לא מהני לחופה.
רבי אליעזר אמר מי שתבעל.
והאמר רבי אליעזר,
Parak Beit Shammai.
אין מעשה קטנה כלום.
אימה מי שתגדיל ותבעל. Okay, so Beit Shammai's opinion that from the time she reaches puberty, her husband is her Yoresh seems a little confusing because we would think that she would have to be married in order for him to be considered the Yoresh. So why, when she reaches puberty, would we allow him to be the Yoresh even if they're not married? So the Stam corrects that that's not true. It's just that only once she hits puberty can she get married, and therefore they also agree that she has to have hit puberty. Then we say that Rabbi Eliezer, who says only once they have consummated the marriage does it count, but the Stam mentions that, Rabbi Eliezer mentions that someone who's underage and consummates a marriage, it doesn't count. So the Stam adds that it's clearly once she's grown and then they consummate the marriage.
Here also we're going through the obvious questions that aren't really relevant to our sugya, but we ask them anyway because we want to get to the ones that are.
Ktane mihat yorsha, v'hahacha dimidoreita avo yarit le.
Kolomar, krove ha'av yarsila. Tinisoi katana midurabanan ninhu, mishum shloyin haguba min hakefker. Kid amar b'cher shnisa pikachas, aval torah lozichta lekadesh zabas, lo le'ima v'lo lachiha.
Umidurabanan yarit lebal. Hefker beitin haya hefker. Damar Rabbi Yitzchak.
מניין שההפקר ביסטין היה הפקר, שנאמר,
Sefer Ezra.
כל אשר לא יבוא לשלושת הימים בעצת השרים והזקנים יחרם כל רכושו, והוא יבדל מכלל הגולה.
רבי אלעזר אמר מהחם,
אלה הנחלות אשר נחלו לזר הכהן ויהושע בן נון וראשי האבוס ומטוס בני ישראל. וכמה עניין ראשי ישראל אבוס?
הווה לילה מכתב וראשי מטוס בני ישראל.
אלא לומר לך מה אבוס מנחילים בניהם כל מה שירצו, אף ראשי מנחילים מסעם כל מה שירצו.
Okay, so we say, now we've gotten all those other questions out of the way. It says Yorsha. Midoraisa, her father ought to inherit her. Now here's where we really come to appreciate what Rashi has been doing to this sugya, because Rashi has an explanation of the sugya which depends on the fact that her father is dead. Yet the sugya repeatedly mentions that her father inherits her and that her father does certain other things. And so therefore, it does not seem at all obvious. Rashi constructs this as a case where she's like where her father's dead and her parents marry off. So Rashi here has a kolomer here to explain how her father could inherit her when her father is dead. And the answer is it's her father's relative, so it's sort of like her father, I guess. And it's because, and the reason we allow her mother and her brothers to marry her off is because we don't want people to like treat her with minhag hefker and like she's just free for all, and so you rather just marry her off because it's safer for her. And therefore we construct all these things around it to allow her husband to really be a husband to her, even though deraisa he can't be.
We notice that Rashi's explanation is not the only explanation, and we read, when we were doing research and reading other Rishonim, we found a different case in the Meiri that constructed it as a second marriage where she was already divorced.
So the answer for how we can make her husband her Yorish as opposed to her father is Hefker based in Haya Hefker, which means that Beis Din can make anybody things Hefker and then can give them to someone else. We bring two proofs from the Torah where Beis Din can give things to whoever they want. But a problem with one is used as a penalty and one is not. A problem we found with the second one is it depends on the fact that fathers can give their sons whatever they want, like to inherit, but they don't really do that. That's not really the case.
Rashi also here says that anything with mammon is not actually akira, which is because there's always obviously two ways of constructing it when you have an answer. Oh, this isn't akira, or okay, fine, this is akira, but like all those other cases of akira, you can't do it. So here Rashi is consistent all the way through that whenever the Gemara is modeh about something and then it's supposed to the choladeos, it's not because, oh, that's akira, but it's an okay form of akira. It's because that's not really akira. So he's just excluded mammon from the conversation completely.
Umitamela.
וההכה דמדאורייתא אביה מטעמלה ומדרבנן מטעמלה בעל, משום דהווה למת מצווה. ומי הווה מת מצווה והתניא?
איזה המיס מצווה כל שאין לו גוברן. קורא באחר עונינוסו אין זה מיס מצווה.
הכנמי כיוון דלא ירתה לה, קריא ולא ענו לה.
ואוכלס בגינות תרומה?
בתרומה דרבנן. So here we talk about the fact that we said that the husband of the underage girl who was married off by her relatives other than her father because her father's dead is allowed to bury her if he's a Kohen. And we ask, how could we say that when Deoraita he's not allowed to bury her because he's not her real husband, he's allowed to be mitzamila and bury her even though he's only her husband Derabanan. So we say that it's because she's a met mitzvah, which is someone who doesn't have people who will bury them. But then we ask, what if she's not a met mitzvah? Because what if he could ask her relatives to bury her and they would? And what we say is that because he's not her real husband, deoraita, really the family should be inheriting what she owns, but we let the husband inherit it, and they'll feel cheated and therefore they won't want to bury her. And then we also ask why we say that she can eat truma if he's a Kohen, and we say that it's truma d'Rabbanan, meaning that the marriage d'Rabbanan counts enough for her to eat truma d'Rabbanan, but she can't eat the truma d'Oraita.
It's also really fun because we get from the Meis Mitzvah part of the sugya that, like Tosfos and a few other people get, that she's not really a Meis Mitzvah. No one really thinks she's a Meis Mitzvah. But it's sort of kind of like a Meis Mitzvah, Davar Hadome, Panim V'tam. When you have a good enough reason, you can do anything, which is really fun. We also, from this sugya, and from this part of the sugya and from later parts of the sugya, we've constructed a theory of how Afkinhu and Hefker based in Hefker interrelate. Afkinhu is the ability to retroactively annul a marriage because it was done al das chachamim, called Kamada Mekadesh, Araita Darabana Mekadesh, and the Hefker based in Hefker we have a pasuk for. So we thought that maybe because for money and for marriage, these are changing statuses affected by the will of human beings. And so for Hefker based in Hefker, essentially what the Beit Din does is replace the will of the human beings to change the status. And so it takes away. And we had a chiddush that for Af Inhu, what it is that you can do that retroactively because it's Aldas Chachamim.